Hi, I'm David Hankins,
And I'm Paul Hankins.
and we're the co-creators, or two of the co-creators, what we hope will be everyone's favorite comic book, Power Squared, and we're here to wish everybody a happy holidays. You can see the tree behind us.
Happy holidays.
This week, I guess the big news for us would be the Kickstarter. All the physical orders have been placed with two different people to do the fulfillment. And if you have submitted your backer survey and we're getting a digital reward, you should have gotten that by now.
Yeah.
It should be in your inbox. If not, check your junk mail. They were sent out on Tuesday, the 17th, so you should have them by now.
Yeah.
The work continues on the comic book. Rachel has finished has inked the first 8 pages of issue 13.
Yes.
Which just seems so far ahead when we're talking 8 and 9. But she's that far ahead on the work. We are still needing to find a new colorist, and we just haven't had a chance to do much on that yet. Just partly because of getting the Kickstarter going, or finished. But it just getting all the orders fulfilled and stuff just takes a little bit of time.
Yeah.
And that we probably will now spend on trying to find a colorist.
Yes.
But then we've gotten some really good, I think some good candidates so far. It's just, we just haven't done a deep dive on it yet.
No, we haven't.
So in the next couple of weeks we'll do that and hopefully find a colorist for 13 and on.
Yes.
So we are also wanting to mention that the Canon story that we talked about a month ago, where it was like Canon is putting out 1,500, was going to give 1,500 copies of our first issue to prospective buyers.
Yeah.
As a showing what their Canon copier can do. That has been sort of delayed due to something on Canon's side, and it's supposed to happen in the spring instead of it's supposed to happen around Thanksgiving, but that's going to happen in the spring.
Yeah. So it's beyond our control.
Right. Yes. And nothing, again, we've done wrong. I'd like to point that out. All right. And so I think the next step will be to talk about Star Wars.
Yes.
We don't have this guy on there very much. Trevor is here, right?
Yes.
So that's good. I just want to acknowledge that you're here. It's like, what is this guy? No, it's a very important part of the whole process. You just want to stay more in the background.
Right.
Okay, so this past weekend, the final movie in the Skywalker saga was finally released, The Rise of Skywalker.
Yes.
And that completes the triple trilogy that Lucas promised 41 years ago.
Yeah.
So just like that, it's all done. And there were actually 11 movies made.
Yeah. If
Two of
you
which
include the 2 anthology movies.
Right. But so it's all part of the Star Wars in this last 41 years.
Yeah. The Star Wars cinematic universe.
Yes. Well, let's start off. What do we think about Rise of Skywalker?
There were things that I liked about it, and there were things I didn't like about it. So it's not the worst movie ever made, like a lot of people are claiming it is,
right.
Or at least not the worst Star Wars movie. It is better than The Last Jedi.
Yes.
Yeah. Rise of Skywalker, I liked certain things about it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure I liked the execution of a lot of it.
Right.
Like, they tried to backpedal on some of the things that were in Last Jedi. And while The Last Jedi did have problems, they could have at least tried to continue off of that instead of outright ignoring it.
Mm-hmm.
Because in an attempt to erase some of Last Jedi, the stuff that they used to explain the bad stuff away it kind of doesn't make sense.
Okay.
Even from the opening crawl, it doesn't make sense.
Well, yeah, no. They kind of, yeah. It sort of reminds me a little bit of Return of the Jedi, which is supposed to have ended the first trilogy.
The original trilogy?
Yes, the original trilogy.
Yeah.
And that was sort of after Star Wars, Empire Strikes Back. It was kind of a thud.
Yeah.
And in some ways, this is kind of after the first of this trilogy, coming to this one, it just sort of seems like it went up, down, and that's not quite back up as high as the first one.
Yeah, kind of plateauing.
Right. Yeah. And there were a lot of, I would say, issues with it. it was a more exciting film than the previous one.
Yeah, for sure.
Last Jedi was really slow. Second time we watched it.
Yeah,
Slow as molasses.
yeah, and we watched that just the day before we went to see the new one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was an improvement over that, but it sort of shows that you don't have a consistent person running the show. I mean, you know, it was J.J. Abrams, then it was Ryan Johnson, and
Yeah.
now it's back to J.J. Abrams. So somewhere in between, it, you know, flippy-flopped, and it's not apparently what George Lucas had in mind, but then he kind of, you know, doesn't have a say anymore because he sold his IP away, and he kind of loses rights at that point. So he, you know.
Yeah. I think maybe a lot of the problems with Rise of Skywalker come from a lack of consistent vision with the sequel trilogy.
Yes.
Partly because of the change in directors. Not necessarily a change of directors by itself, because I think the original trilogy had different directors.
Yes, but it had George Lucas, for better or for worse, sort of behind everything.
Yeah, it was at least still following the same vision.
Right.
With the sequel trilogy, it seemed like the directors had different visions of what it was supposed to be. Like J.J. Abrams seemed to like really like the original trilogy,
Yes.
to the point of ignoring the prequels, for better or worse.
And pretty much copying the original, and he made Force Awakens.
Yeah, because that sort of relives the Star Wars. I mean,
Yeah.
It's like reinventing it, you know, moving it up, 40 years, but still it's the same story, basically.
Yeah, no, with The Last Jedi, it seems to intentionally throw away a lot of what J.J. Abrams did in an attempt to kind of make this weird meta commentary on just Star Wars in general, like the storytelling and I guess to some extent the franchise as a whole.
Right.
And they go out of their way to be like, let's do something new. And then J.J. Abrams didn't seem to not like that and throw that away and went back to loving the original trilogy.
Right.
And then it just kind of created this mess.
Anything to say?
Something I kind of thought about while we were watching Rise of Skywalker. It's like, they did, like, find a clever way to write around Carrie Fisher's death. However, it's like, even if you don't know exactly what they did, you can I could just, like, kind of tell that she, like, wasn't really there.
So you got the sense that they were using old footage to make up for the fact that she was no longer there for the production.
Yeah, it felt like they were basically talking to stock footage.
Well, which is what they had to do, I think.
Yeah.
I know they did that out of necessity. It's just
You got the sense that that's really what they were doing. They didn't hide it very well.
yeah, they didn't hide it as well as they probably could have.
Right.
Yeah. I could see that.
Yeah.
So if part of their explanations, they try to explain how, I guess, spoilers, try to explain how Leia was suddenly able to use, like, the Force.
Mm-hmm.
And they have, like, CG'd young versions of Carrie Fisher and Mark Hamill.
Right. Sort of like they did. Well, for her, they had that in Rogue One. They had a younger version of her.
Yeah.
Right.
It looked better this time because it was, like, shadowed heavily.
I'll admit with the Carrie Fisher thing with Rogue One, I only like noticed the Uncanny Valley thing like when I saw the ending, like I randomly saw the ending like again on TV.
Right. But at the time you're watching it, you just sort of accept it, and then you're kind of like, oh, wait a minute, what was now?
Yeah, I only noticed it like the second time I saw the ending.
I think maybe part of the problem with having to insert Carrie Fisher the way they did into this movie is the fact that originally when they were planning the sequel trilogy, they sort of heavily relied on her like being alive the whole time.
Right. So if you've seen the other films in the trilogy, you probably want to see this to finish it off.
You kind of need to, like, even if you don't want to, you kind of need to just to round it up.
And it might still not be satisfying, but you still need to have closure in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah. So where do you rank this in the?
One other thing, there is some like striking visuals in spite of like the odd storytelling.
Yes.
And I did at least appreciate the final shot of the movie, how it seemed to kind of bookend with the Star Wars saga as a whole.
Right. So you like the bookend effect at the
Yeah.
end. Okay. So how would you rank the Star Wars films?
Okay. They got the top. I would easily put Star Wars and Empire.
Okay.
Because those two have the most heart put into them. The original Star Wars is an eternal classic.
Yes.
And
Yes.
Empire managed to raise the stakes in a very meaningful and engaging way.
It got better when George Lucas didn't direct it, you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
Within the vacuum of the original trilogy, I would put Jedi below those two.
Yes. I think Return of the Jedi is down. Force Awakens I would put pretty high up.
Yeah.
Rogue One I'd put pretty high up.
Yes, for sure. I think I might put Rogue One above Force Awakens.
Okay.
Because Rogue One was written very well. It had more originality, I guess. And it actually flows very well with the original Star Wars.
Right. And then, Force Awakens. And then I'd say The Rise of Skywalker
Yeah.
would be sort of, was that fifth?
Yeah.
And then one before it,
Last Jedi?
The Last Jedi. Sorry.
Where would you put Return of the Jedi?
Probably above The Last Jedi, and
Yeah.
then The Last Jedi, and then the original. The prequel sequel, a prequel
The
trilogy.
prequel trilogy.
Yes, prequel trilogy. In any sort of order you want. I think the first one is really awful, so maybe that would be the last of those. If you want to flip the order,
Yeah.
and then none of them are. I don't think are any really that good, but that's just
Right.
me. And then probably down at the bottom there would be Solo,
Yeah. Yes.
and maybe even Solo might be above the first. Was it Phantom Menace?
Yeah.
It might be above that because Phantom Menace. I mean, the prequel trilogy is kind of a joke.
Yeah.
And it really doesn't have. It's just there to make you go see 3 movies. It doesn't really affect anything.
Yeah.
It doesn't really affect the Star Wars trilogy, the original trilogy. And I don't think it really plays that much at all because Darth Vader's not in the last one.
Yeah.
So
Honestly, just watch the 2003 Clone Wars cartoon instead.
yeah, we like that, but that's not canon,
Yeah, unfortunately.
and it's not a feature film.
So to recap, Star Wars and Empire together,
Uh-huh.
and then Rogue One, and then Force Awakens,
Mm-hmm.
and then Return of the Jedi,
Mm-hmm.
Rise of Skywalker,
Right.
and then
Last Jedi.
Last Jedi, Revenge of the Sith, Attack the Clones, Solo, Phantom Menace.
Sure, something like that.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, when you get down to those 2 at the bottom, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
Just lay down and avoid them is really my recommendation on those. So this is actually a question that we have on as our poll question on powersquaredcomicbook.com,
Yes.
asking you to rank or to actually tell us your favorite of the Star Wars films. So that's there under /poll.
Yeah.
We encourage you to let us know what you think. Or you can also let us know in the comments below.
Yes.
All
I'd
right?
actually like to know your Star Wars rank. So I think that about wraps it all up.
Yes, it does.
So if you like this video, leave a like, subscribe if you want to see more, ring the notification bell if you want to see exactly when these videos go up, and share if you think there are people who might be interested.
Yes, please share. So until next time, I'm David Hankins,
I'm Paul Hankins.
I'm Trevor Hankins.
and this has been a week in Power Squared.